money was supposed to be used for some sort of rehabilitation of the whole of the Northeast. And a large chunk of that money was supposed to go towards helping people who'd been impacted by this insurgency, whether it's resettlement and all that. And I remember that big show in Abuja. As a matter of fact, I think some of our colleagues at channels actually covered it, because I remember seeing snippets of it on air. And then when that happened, then everything went quiet again. So you're absolutely right. I don't know, it may well be that they did things and we didn't know about it.
Because there were photos, there were interviews, there were video clips of the conditions of people. And there was this, I remember seeing this clip of a child who was born, a baby was born there, and the baby had no clothes. I think the mom had to use her wrapper to wrap. You know, it's just, the conditions were really awful. That's like about, not even up to a year ago. Yes, when this came out, and then all of a sudden, the next time I heard about IDPs was that, oh, they were going to make sure that they had polling units. And my concern at that point was that, how come all of a sudden you're remembering IDPs because you want their votes, but you didn't remember them?
This is an ongoing conversation. Prof, also, it happened before that they've said this prior to the elections, where it was being talked about how our displaced persons will vote. So I take what you're saying, and it breaks my heart every time to see how at times Nigerians in crisis situations are treated at a level that is sometimes seen as subhuman by the rest of us, even by the government. But when you draw attention to it, and when one finds out the details, maybe it wasn't done deliberately, or it may be sins of omission rather than commission. Well, because when you look at how some state governors have handled this issue, they've been very...
There was a measure of neglect for a long time, until I guess people started... I wrote about it in my column at that time, and a group of, like I said, a group of journalists and civil society organization personnel went out there and recorded everything. So probably following that, there was attention, but for a long time, there was a lot of neglect. Yes, they gave them the camps, but they had no provisions. And now you see some groups of people will go in there and actually teach the children since they couldn't go to school. But much attention came, not like 2 days ago before the election, but a few months ago, when it's like, okay, we'll provide polling units, because for that raised a lot of outrage. It's like, so all of a sudden, polling units are a priority for IDPs. They need food, they need medical attention.
The displaced persons, did they protest that?
No, people who went, no, they talked, yes, they talked. They were interviewed in the different camps.
If that was so, it would have been a very good avenue for our displaced persons to say that, okay, we have been neglected for so long, and now because we know that we're important in this regard, then you want...
Can I say something?
We didn't hear that from them.
No, I didn't hear that from them. Yeah,
excuse me. These are people who are fleeing war. Yes. Some have lost their husbands, some wives, some sisters, some fathers. Some have had people killed right in front of their eyes. And you're really expecting them to have the semblance to be able to organize when they're probably trying to recover from trauma, trying to eat.
Not organized, but vocalized.
No, there were some of those kids you didn't even know where they came from.
I think when media people went and actually stuck cameras in their faces, because I've certainly seen reports by CNN and a few other people, they talked. But as to whether they can then go out and actually organize themselves to take to the streets and protest, like you're saying it, or look for publicity.
When I say protest, I did not mean it in that manner. What I mean is that they
but for me, the biggest question is, what is the hope for after elections?
Exactly. So
but
now we've got their vote. So what
let's also not lose sight of the fact that I know for certainty that yes, indeed, the politicians probably needed the numbers provided by the internally displaced persons, but the IDPs themselves did cry out through maybe the journalists or civil society organizations that liaised with them. They actually cried out. They were the ones who even warned of the danger of them being disenfranchised because of their status as internally displaced persons. So they also made a case for themselves that, look, we also want to participate in this transition.
Charles, Charles, it was bad that the IDPs ever had to be displaced from their homes.
Yes, very sad.
And that when they were so displaced, they weren't taken care of as they ought to be taken care of by our government at various levels. And, you know, people then had to be intervening, doing advocacy around their sufferings, their deprivations and all that, to nudge government to do what is necessary. But believe you me, it will have been triple jeopardy, not double, if they had not participated or a condition had not been created for them to participate in this election for these reasons. And that was the worry I had, you know, when the situation in the Northeast was escalating. If elections were prevented from taking place by Boko Haram insurgency and bloodletting in those areas, there will be grave constitutional implications. The tenures of government and legislators and all that will end. And so if the renewal of mandate that is required by the Constitution does not take place, what's going to happen? So are you going to appoint administrators, or what do you want to do in those regions? So that's serious implications. And so it was important that the IDPs participate in this process. And it's doubly important that they also participate in this process to stake their demand that they be returned home and that, you know, they be allowed to go about their normal lawful business, because that's very important. And I think that that's the much they've expressed by participating in this. Of course, you can't discount the usual, behavior of politicians. For example, Senator Ndume, reportedly, and you can check this out, was said to have wept when he voted with the IDPs in an IDP camp, when he saw people, that he was weeping. And I said, yes, that's the politician for you.
So how come that was...
Are you saying that
so
the
that
weeping
was,
was cosmetic?
No, I'm not saying it's crocodile tears. I'm not saying
probably-
I'm just saying he wept.
Okay.
I'm saying that he wept so much that the press, media like yours, remarked that he wept there.
So that
Okay.
was probably the first time he went there.
No, I wouldn't know.
No, I'm
but
just saying
what made
probably.
the news was that he wept.
Well,
you know, in the Bible it says Jesus wept.
Yes,
So
but what's wrong with that?
Senator Ndume wept. I'm telling you.
Anyway,
So that should
the
come
internally
back.
displaced persons actually got to vote, but then there is also a section of Nigerians, I just decided to coin that phrase now, externally displaced persons, and you'll find out exactly why I'm putting it that way.